days, weeks, months of arduous travel, our player characters, our adventurers have arrived in a valley overgrown with life and abundance. And just as the sun crests the valley, spilling light into this region, they see a lone figure, a beast, a mythological creature, the unicorn. But what does it mean in your game? Would it even be a unicorn? So today we're going to talk about it on this day, the day of the unicorn. Uh, let's get our minds fueled up and get started. Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. Our little intro allows us to take a couple of deep breaths, blow the dust out of our brain cavity, and get into our uh, creative thoughts here. And today, on the day of the unicorn, is one in which the concept of the day of the unicorn might not be as specific as intended. So allow me to present to you guys the general concept, and then we're going to take it apart, put it back together again, and of course, by the end of the show, we're going to come up with some amazing things and something, give you guys some things to think about, chew on for your tabletop role playing experiences and world building. So on this day of the unicorn, of course, is a uh, mythological creature, often depicted as a singular entity. And what I love about the unicorn and this idea of the day of is that the unicorn kind of represents, on one hand, a an important entity. The idea of finding someone or something or some place that is held out in legend, and this is extremely common in fantasy. Hey, we for a place. Oh, we have to find a temple or an altar, or we have to get to a particular location at a specific time and day to allow ourselves to see a specific event, and it gives the player character some information. Finding the unicorn itself, we often the term unicorn is often used to describe something that's extremely rare, if not a singular event that would happen in one person's life that thousands of people will never ever get to see. Also, it also represents a gift to the player characters, right? Hey, if you can find a unicorn, that means you are not only brave and going through arduous times, but maybe you are pure of heart, or the unlike finding a dragon that's dangerous and evil, the unicorn kind of represents the goodness and a gift to the players. The unicorn appears, and good things may happen to the player characters. Of course, the unicorn may physically do something good for the player characters by healing them or protecting them, or the unicorn may lead them out of danger, or maybe the unicorn's not there for them, but the unicorn is there as support. Like, oh, I see you're protecting these people, innocent people. I'll lead them to safety. You go and start beating ass with the bad guys or something. Thanks, Drew. Although I think, Drew, you're referring to me as a unicorn in a different way, and I appreciate that. I'll be the third part in your relationship there. Sure, why not? Yeah, I was thinking. Yeah, Mark got there too. Yep. I was like, wait a minute. But strangely enough, it's actually applicable. So I'm not going to get in too much detail, but for those who don't know, those who are are into relationships that are constellation relationships, those who are paired up and they want to add a third party to that thing, especially if it's a male female relationship and they want to add a third person. The unicorn is usually a singular person who's into both of yourselves, both the woman and the man, and they're called a unicorn. And there's a reason, because some people are um uh rare to find, and sometimes there are, the term unicorn is used for singular individuals in music or sports, or um, having someone who is skilled in uh, both intellectual or engineering, as well as social skills and such. Very difficult to find someone who's very skilled in public speaking, or diplomacy, or teaching, who's also skilled with maybe engineering or computer sciences and things like that. So a unicorn can represent that in your world as well. Another part of unicorn that the unicorn represents is the physicality. Hey, listen, to go after unicorn, you can't just sit in a tavern and drink and hope it shows up. You got to go out and find this thing. And that means that you're going to be pushed to your limits, your strength and your balance and your manual dexterity and your endurance and your navigation. And so it represents, I dare say, it kind of runs in parallel to last week. We talked a lot about competition being tested. How intelligent is your group, how socially adept is your group, and the unicorn is kind of judgmental in a certain way, in the sense of, yeah, I'm not going to show myself unless you really prove that you deserve to even uh, be close to us. So yeah. A duocorn. Yeah, I see it. I see it, Marco. Well, there's duocorns everywhere. Yeah, the polyamory stream. Although that would be a different. Yeah, I'd probably get 10 times as many subscribers on that. TA says, what would be interesting is if a unicorn that someone, if they are not pure or whatever, then even though you have one with you, they can't see it. If you are, say, sitting on it, they think you are in a tree or something, but not able to see the actual unicorn, which is another thing, right? Like the unicorn is a um, living, thinking entity that makes its own judgments as well. So it's almost, it is both animal and extremely intelligent consciousness, and then not only just both of those, but it also has an agenda all its own that may not even be understandable amongst the player characters. And so unicorns, and mind you, again, it doesn't need to be a unicorn. The first thing that comes to my mind that could represent a unicorn in your world is a sphinx, or the winged snake, the coatl, or some other entity. And an ancestor could be that way, or finding the world tree. The tree that's this big giant. That's to give knowledge to the world, and what sacrifices you did. Like Odin, we have ourselves one of our members, a one-eyed heathen, where, hey, Odin wanted this information, but he's got to get to the world tree, and he's got to remove his eye, and then there's two ravens there, whatever. So it's a combination of all these things. Although the duocorn would probably be something like what like an antelope or something. Sure, why not? Oops. If And I do like the idea that maybe some of the player characters can't see it. They don't even know it's there, and the other ones are like, "Who are you talking to?" Or maybe the player doesn't even realize they're talking to it, because the unicorn, it is out of time and place and gives the player character some kind of knowledge, or the unicorn doesn't speak at all. It doesn't even speak through images or anything. It just points the way, and the player characters go through a fey. It's like a portal of sorts. They follow the unicorn deep into the overgrown jungle that's kind of like displaying in the background of this video, and they take a few steps, and all of a sudden they're in this oasis, or they're a back alley of a city. They are at the top of the mountain. They are in the accursed desert that I always bring up. Whatever the case may be, they get teleported, they get transported or somewhere, or they're able to pierce the unicorn allows them to pierce the veil of darkness or something that they could never get through because the evil lich has cast a spell or something like that. Um, Also, the idea of the unicorn is, how do I explain this? Um, it brings back the idea that there's a unified, a singular entity that represents the pinnacle of a thing. So unicorns, Pegasus, a lot of mythology deals with an animal or a beast-like creature that where there's only one of them, or it's only ever seen once and then for generations never seen again. And it kind of brings that back, like for in our fantasy, we usually don't have one dragon. It's a lot of different dragons. Now, in I personally always felt like dragons are singular, so it's not red dragons as a generality. It is There is a specific red dragon with a name, and there's no other one just like it. Even if there are other fire breathing dragons in the world, they are all completely different personality wise, appearance, where they live. And so this also, the idea of the unicorn also can bring back the idea that in your world, maybe, for example, maybe there's a troll, and that troll has a name, a purpose, a destiny, whatever the case may be. It's not just hags. It's not just hag, it's Grendola the Ancient, and she specifically is a person who does a thing. And so the idea of the unicorn is that there's only one, or there only has been one, or it's not just all the others. No, there's a pinnacle. And mechanically, you can absolutely portray that by giving that thing its maximum hit points, or its armor class is always two or three better than every other one, and maximum hit points, and two extra attacks, and has an extra two dice of damage for every one of its things. And yeah, well, thanks. I went from a unicorn to a troll. I'm putting on a pouty face and folding my arms and. But no, but in all seriousness, yeah. I mean, hey, there's a role playing game called Feng Shui, and no, it's not about placing objects in your room to get the. It's about kung fu action. It's all wuxia, and in Feng Shui they have a rule that's called named and unnamed NPCs, and if they are unnamed, all you got to do is just roll to hit them and they go down. They fall down like bowling pins, right? You just mow them down. They're cannon fodder. They're mooks. They're whatever. Okay. But they're grunts and thugs and stuff. But if you give them a name, they operate like the player character. So you can't just gun them down. And so maybe in your role playing game, if you give it a name, it becomes a singular entity. That individual has a name. That means that that's somebody you need to watch out for. That's the indicator for you to tell your players that thing is dangerous or should be respected or what have you. Also, mechanically speaking, they've we know in role playing games, especially all of our D20 games, that creatures like cyclopses and minotaurs and unicorns and such, that sometimes they try to give them mechanical features to make them. I'm trying to think of the right way to say it, to make them extremely superior in what they can do, but sometimes the game mechanics don't represent that. So you could also not apply any mechanical features to your unicorn in the world. In other words, the unicorn is basically the equivalent of like one of the deities, right? It doesn't have any stats. You can't kill it. You can't destroy it. You can't. It's going to be there when it wants to be, and it's going when it isn't. And yeah, you can try to make attacks on it, but we're not even going to roll dice. You're just going to miss, or it's going to go away, or something. That could be a thing. Also, what a great thing for the player characters to defend the unicorn. Maybe the day of the unicorn is the day where the unicorn can really be captured, and no other day is possible. So the the orcish tribe wants to go out and have a feast of the unicorn. I think it's a magic I'm gonna look up the that magic card. MTG Feast of the Unicorn. And let's get the image up here because it looks pretty. It looks pretty gnarly. Let's see. It's 10 cents. Oh, and I like that image too. All right, but anyway, but maybe that's the day where like an old animated movie, The Last Unicorn, maybe the unicorns need to be defended by the player characters, and the player characters are going to go out there and defend this thing. I've got the thumbnail. They got the unicorn sitting there. Of course, it's darker. I like artist renditions of some unicorns because they mix the unicorn with a lot of the horses that we see nowadays. So you can get like dark colors or like splotched patterns and things like that. Kind of cool. Also, a very common thing that you've seen before are unicorns that are mixed with Pegasi and things like that. Let's see if we can get. Yeah, there's the image. Let's go ahead and share this out for you guys. Oop. See if it shows up a little bit. It's hard to see, but there's a plate with a unicorn head on it. Kind of nasty, but I like it. I kind of like it. All right. Anyway, let's get back to what you guys have to say. Mark Desune says, I'm reminded of Sukuden 2. One recruitable character is a unicorn. Excuse me. And he only joins if you answer positively to, are you a maiden? So you get to bring all the lady recruits to meet him and learn more than you might have wanted. That's there's a lot of genderfied mythology. Only a pure maiden can speak with the unicorn, and this may be a way for us to either embrace that aspect into role playing, like, hey, sorry guys, but just because it's a big sausage fest doesn't mean you're gonna be able to meet the unicorn. You're gonna need to find a pure maiden, and where do we find a pure maiden? Oh, maybe it's a princess or something like that. Or this is a way to flip the script, right? Like having taking those things and mixing up the genderfied roles and going like, yeah, the lady you thought was supposed to be the maiden to go meet the unicorn, yeah, maybe she's not as pure as you thought she was. And maybe one of the other player characters is more pure, and everyone looks at that guy is like, dude, did you really have to point me out? Like, yeah. Sorry. TA says, so basically by living impure, one has now put a filter over one's eyes that filter out the ability to see the unicorn. Or the ability to see the unicorn too. That could be it. Someone who hasn't committed murder, hasn't committed the murder hoboism, can see the unicorn. Everybody else, sorry, just gonna take our word for it. Quadricorn. Thus, with that perspective, the unicorn is not the judgmental one. It is those that can't see it that are the judgmental ones, having judged themselves. I like that. I don't know how you would. I mean, as players, sometimes we get a little bit, we kind of feel a little bit butthurt if people start making judgments about our player characters. But yeah, if you got a mature group, you could do something like that. Having the players answer honestly, like, hey, would your character even be able to see the damn thing? And if they're honest about themselves, they're like, nah, my player character probably would never. What my 4th level assassin rogue, 7th level warlock, nope. Quadricorns, you guys, you silly. Is there a difference between a duocorn versus a bicorn? Is one where the horns are over under and the other horns are side by side? Yeah. Is it one in front of the other? Well, that wouldn't be would that be a ridge? If there's one behind the other one? I don't know. But yeah, also, a unicorn can kind of represent a moving target. So, for example, commonly with our fetch quests ideas out in our fantasy role playing, the fetch quest is often go to the place to go get the thing and bring it back, right? Common fetch quest. But maybe the unicorn is the living embodiment of the fetch quest, right? Hey, there's the unicorn. Okay, that means that's where that's the entrance to the seventh portal that we're going to go through to get the seventh part of the rod, of seven parts or something. Maybe that's it. Unicorn could represent a patron to the player characters, an NPC of sorts, right? An NPC doesn't necessarily need to be a person that puts the player characters on a mission, or get like a sage giving the characters information, or is a guide. Maybe there is you can have a Dances with Wolves kind of situation where there is an animal or a beast or mythological creature on the horizon that comes around, offers the player characters some kind of benefit, puts them on their way, pats them on the pushes them towards the goal, and then disappears, only to reappear later on. Uh, the unicorn could represent the proverbial cleric in the group that nobody wants to play, and that person hasn't shown up, and the unicorn comes around and helps heal up the player characters or cure them from the poisons or diseases, and disappears as well. It could be a one and done. Hey, player characters, you've got a thing I love from the Cipher system or Numenera, where you can get a cipher. You could steal this for any game. A cipher is a one-use object that the players have that gives them the ability to do one powerful thing once and it's gone. And you can hand those out like candy. And one of those might be a unicorn's horn, or a tattoo. Maybe they've been touched by the unicorn's horn and they have a marking on them, or all they have to do is call its name, or they are wearing a golden braid around their wrist or something, or whatever the case might be. And all they have to do is call once, the unicorn shows up once, does a thing, saves their asses, disappears, and is never seen from again. It might be a back and forth where, yes, they can call them once, but if the player characters perform a goodly duty, maybe there's a duty that the unicorn wants them to do, and if they fulfill it, they get the trinket back, right? They get the use of, hey, you did this thing for me, you saved. Maybe there's a small village somewhere that's going to be in the middle of caught in the middle of a landslide or a major war, or they're going to be trampled or something, sacrificed or whatever. And the unicorn's like, yeah, you need to save them. And I know everyone else doesn't want to save them, but if you save them, you can call on me once. And the PCs go and do the thing and become the thing. So yeah, animals. And when I said the Dances with Wolves, I'm talking like you could apply this to any kind of creature. They don't even need to be so mystical. If you have a low magic setting, maybe there's a pack of wolves, and that pack of wolves just happens to kind of sort of befriend the PCs, and they howl and bay and draw the trolls that are in the jungle away from the player characters, or the wolves. The pack of wolves surround the one lone PC that's left out there who's being attacked by the hobgoblins, and the pack of wolves tries to attacks for 2 rounds the hobgoblins, and then the wolves then disappear. Or maybe a PC falls into the river and starts to float down the way, and then a wolf grabs him by the ankle and pulls him to shore, and then disappears or something. It could be a gift of sorts. Thomas Anderson says, I wonder if coward would be used here as it is by its root meaning, lack of faith in the divine. So someone who is a coward could be strong and constantly the first to try and charge in and save the day, but this is because they don't trust in the divine to work things out. So they can't see the unicorn, even though they seem to the casual eye to be so pure. And that's true, right? Like maybe there is I know maybe cowardice and being a holy knight don't apply to each other, but maybe there's a test of faith, and the player characters realize, like, ooh, shoot, that holy knight isn't as holy as we thought they were, right? The unicorn could be judgmental, right? Or the PCs are like, I don't know if you want to go on this day of the unicorn. I wouldn't try to test this out. And the NPC is like, sure I am. The unicorn and I are going to be best friends. And the PCs are like, this ain't going to work out the way you think it will. This is not, this ain't that. This may be a situation where the player characters understand. Yep, Drew brings up a good point. The Star Wars Rebels had magical, mystical wolves. In the movie that everybody hated, there were the silver foxes. What was it? The Last Jedi. Yeah, had the silver fox. The the animals in Star Wars being a representation of the natural order, and then one or more of the characters having a bond with that natural order or defending that natural order is a thing in Star Wars, and it's a common trope that we use. I mean, could you imagine? Uh, could you imagine the message being sent to the player characters? Maybe the ranger doesn't become the pack of wolves doesn't befriend the ranger, but instead the I don't know the urban thief or whatever, and it might send a message like maybe the ranger really isn't as nice and pure, or maybe the character who thinks that they're just like, oh, I hate being out in the wilderness and I think it's stupid or blah blah blah, but maybe they're really a good person. They've just been lost and haven't been found yet, you know, and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's a representation of maybe there's something inside. It could be a physical representation of a character making the transition in their story. Like, hey, I was this great noble, or I was a street urchin or something, but now I'm out in the wild, and now this is my opportunity to go out into the wild. And oh, mechanically, I'm becoming a first level druid, something like that, or whatever. I used to be not used to be, but I, I was a warforged mechanical being given sentience, but this is a thing that really cements me into the natural order, and so I've been pursuing this the entire time, or something. A unicorn could also be a warlock patron as well. I always think of warlock patrons as the the difference between a warlock and a cleric in fantasy is with a cleric, they have faith first before they gain the power, and they've always had the faith. It just so happens they get the power. Whereas warlocks is like, I want the power. Now I need to try to have the faith. And someone could just be like, please save me. I'll do anything. And the unicorn was like, all right, I'll save you, but you owe me. Right. And even if it's against their better judgment, like, I like stealing from people, or whatever. But I've got to be a good guy. I got to give the money back. I hate this. TA says a unicorn horn is a silver half to avoid in a silver haft is to avoid. I'm sorry. Let me put this. The unicorn horn in a silver haft to avoid destructive nature to the hand of the wielder because it reacts to all matter almost like a plasma blade or a lightsaber. Oh, the unicorn's horn itself could be a thing. Now, I don't know if I'm not sure exactly. I mean, like, could a unicorn give its horn to someone? I think so. I mean, there's no reason why it couldn't. It could also have been found, especially if a unicorn's been harmed, wounded, captured, poisoned, corrupted, or something. Maybe the PCs find the dying or dead body of a unicorn, and they're like, "Oh shoot!" And it could absolutely alter the natural order, where instead of pristine, the Druidic circle needs the PC's help. Like, they're going around trying to murder kill the unicorns, and we've got to save the mommy, the prime unicorn. And if we don't, they'll have control over something. Yeah, Mark Desune says, I could also see making a warlock pact with a unicorn, except instead of a devilish contract, you're instead expected to remain pure by never lying and never taking drugs. Yeah. Yep, exactly. They're like, oh, my instinct is to, and the unicorn is like, no. You have to speak the truth all the time. And the PC's like, oh, I don't want to. Damn it. But that would be awesome though, especially if the player, if the, you could really have some fun playing that up. Like, my character wants to be bad and evil and and selfish and that kind of thing. But the unicorn is saying, nah, you need to be a good guy. Even because the word warlock kind of, it's the fantasy tropishness of words like monk, warlock, paladin, already barbarian, even already have connotations you kind of have to wipe away first before you replace it with something else. Like paladin should probably be replaced with like, well, I was going to say oath keepers, but oof, oh, but you know what I mean, like warlock should probably be replaced with something like, I don't know, um, maybe someone who's devoted to a pact or something, to separate it from, because the warlock sounds evil and devilish by itself rather than just making a promise or a pact or something like that. Anyway, there's a word for it, but I'm sure there's other things, you know. Ta says, I wish I could remember what book series or whatever it was that a unicorn was like the ultimate weapon if it was able to be used. I'm drawing a blank right now. I think there was, I haven't seen The Last Unicorn, and I know there's something about that. Let me see. Let's look up. Um, uh, sorry, sorry. Wow. Um, let's see. Unicorn. Um, let's see if we find some. Uh, this is kind of cool. Okay. Fun kids. Top 10 facts about unicorns. And it's like a kids thing. All right. Okay. All right. Let's share this out here. And then let's see if it runs in line with some things that we may be thinking about, and have some fun with it. Let's see. T says, if I recall, its touch could be used to heal in another story. And in fantasy, it's the same way, right? Like the unicorn's horn. There's the idea that the unicorn can touch and heal things, or the unicorn's presence can protect people. It can purify a thing. So if it's corrupted, the unicorn's presence or just a touch of its horn could purify it. I think it can heal. I'll pull up the stats too as well, or at least the common stats. Yeah, Drew says the BBEG can see unicorns since they are pure evil. Yeah, yep. Yeah, I love. Yes, exactly. Yeah, so the characters having to play out their role like Jim Carrey and Liar Liar. Hell's yeah. Yeah, like damn it, I want to lie, I can't do it. Oh. Yeah, don't make warlocks, make love and peace locks. Yep. Hell's yeah. Hell yeah. Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, instead of the track between the unicorn and Oathkeeper being broken, should they lie, they just can't lie and are compelled to tell the truth all the time while realizing it the first time would be hilarious. Oh, so they think they're lying and they think they're getting away with it, but the entire time they're telling the truth, and everyone's like folding their arms, like, "What did you say again?" Like, I'll make my deception roll. I rolled a 27. Okay, if you think so. Yep. I've seen The Last Unicorn. It's just been a long time. No, I've seen it. It's just 30 years probably. I'm in my mid 50s, so yeah. Mm-mm-mm. See, and that I don't know how much I would want to commodify the unicorn's horn, but yes. So okay, here we go. This is a kids thing, so this isn't going to get too deep. So a unicorn is a mythological creature. Yep. Books, word of mouth, film, stuff like that. Magical abilities. There are other mythical creatures like mermaids, gnomes, vampires. Yep. Unicorns have one horn in the middle of their head. Um, they're Scotland's national animal. I hadn't thought about that. Uh, aren't unicorns placed on a lot of heraldic imagery, like griffins as well? Mm-mm-mm. It is believed that the mythical creature is their national animal because it's a symbol of purity, innocence, masculinity, and power. Ancient Greeks were the first people to write about unicorns. Okay, all right. Around 400 BCE, the first ever man to write about them was called Ctesias. He was a Greek historian. Okay. Pharmacies sold powdered unicorn horns. Years ago in the Middle Ages, people believed that unicorns could be used for healing. They believed that unicorn horns would heal sickness and wounds and even stop the effects of poison. In London pharmacies, powdered unicorn horns were sold until 1741 for aches and pains. Obviously, unicorns are very rare, so they would use a walrus or a rhino horn, which makes you wonder in fantasy, like, where would you get powdered unicorn horn from? Apparently, they would have to be captured and someone would have to kill them, which would commodify the unicorns. And who would be doing that? And would there be some kind of ramification from it? Like, would they be cursed because they did a thing? Or would there be something that happened in the public or something like that? Or what have you? I don't know. Unicorns have blue or purple eyes. That's a good trait, but I don't know. Baby unicorns are called sparkles. Okay, okay. A bit like dogs or puppies and cats or kittens, the name for a baby unicorn is a sparkle. Okay. Unicorns don't have wings, although you could make the argument that how could you? It's like a rule. It's like the like mispronouncing something. It's not wrong. It's consensus. So all consensus have to do is change. Yeah. If you're trying to spot a unicorn, then this might help. Unicorns don't have wings. If you have seen one with wings, then it was probably a different mythological creature called a Pegasus, except it has a horn on its head. So what? Yeah, the word unicorn comes from Latin. Yep, and unicorns have magical powers. Yeah, yeah, kind of cool, kind of fun. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, TA says, or they hold them down and saw the horn off. Ugh, that's pretty bad too. Yeah, holding them down and sawing the horn off. But then, like, who would have the power, or what group, or whatever? I mean, that also goes to show on the day of the unicorn the skill and power and expertise of any other entity that could go out, capture, hold down, saw off the horn of the unicorn to let it go to then do this the next season or something like that. I don't know. I mean, it's that it sounds the visual of that sounds more brutal than the murder killing of a unicorn, but it also, I don't know. It there's a I'm not saying the person wouldn't be a bad guy, but I could see someone rationalizing doing it to help protect or save or cure people, knowing that they're committing this violation of the a higher echelon of the natural order, and having a greater effect. Like maybe the person or group that's doing this is severing the unicorn's horn, and sure, it's a temporary fix to a thing, but because the unicorn can't protect the wilderness or something, it's why there's floods, snowstorms, pestilence, famine, and these other things that are happening. You know, yeah. However, Tia says, however, there is the possibility that they shed them in some cycle, like how deer shed the buck's horns or antlers. Yeah, I've got one in the back that was shed, so it's that is also possible that someone uh, the day of the unicorn is the day that how animals go through different cycles, like mating season, or they're in a rut, or they're in heat, or they are, I don't know. I don't know what the cycle of, like, would a unicorn go along like uh, an equine cycle? Like, do they travel in herds? Are they the pinnacle of a herd and they travel with other? I don't know. Do they befriend, or are they allies with Pegasi. I know that they're often allies with Fey creatures, so that might be a thing as well. Maybe there's some way for on the day of the unicorn that they pierce the veil, or they happen to travel out of the Fey realm into the material realm, or vice versa, and they pierce the realm. They come into the material plane. It's the perfect time to capture them. You've got 24 hours to capture them, or again, they may rub themselves against a thing because they're going through a different cycle or ascendance. Maybe they lose their horn to ascend to something else. I don't know. Yeah, maybe that's just a growth pattern, and they just drop it, and then only people who can see the unicorn can find it. And then when they find it, the unicorn doesn't do anything to it. Like it's like, of course you're supposed to pick it up and take it. Of course, it makes a perfectly powerful wand or magical item or artifact or something. The equivalent of um, the Holy Avenger sword, but it's the horn, or maybe someone can forge a blade and it becomes the hilt of a weapon or something, the haft of the weapon or something. Yeah. Thomas Anderson goes on and says, if shedding is the solution to finding them, then it could be that the day of the unicorn is the hunt for those shed horns before they vanish into Earth. Absolutely. Although I could see conflict happening as well. Maybe it's not supposed to be picked up and taken. Maybe it's supposed to be buried or planted almost like a tree or something like that. Or there's a ritual to that blesses a certain group of people. The Druid Circle circles around it and does a thing that's supposed to bring good tidings for the next season. But if someone steals it, it's a bad thing. Or the person who finds it, by virtue of finding it, you are already chosen because you would never be able to find it otherwise. So then when you have it, maybe it's like um I'm trying to think of a way to describe it. Like it's a badge of honor. If you have the horn, maybe there's nothing magical. It has its magical abilities. Maybe they fade, but having it itself allows you passage into the Fey realm, or allows you passage into a dangerous wilderness or something. Like, oh, you found one. That means maybe evil entities can't have it, or they have to pick it up with tongs, because if they touch it, they'll burn. Yeah, the thing is too, if the powder is all you need, a simple file to file off a small amount of powder is more than enough to solve their issue, leaving the rest of the horn on the unicorn. True. Uh, if they shed a little bit, maybe there's little flakes. I mean, it could be so powerful. There's a little flake could make like hundreds of healing potions or something like that, right? Yeah. Yep, yep, yep. Or if the unicorn sees and feels for your plight, it could rub its horn on a rock for you to collect some of the dust to cure that loved one too. Exactly. It could be, I need this thing, or the PCs bring a sick individual to the unicorn, like we don't have any way to help it, and the unicorn comes by and just kind of like rubs against a rock, and the mystical powder floats over the person, curing them of their disease, like lycanthropy or something like that. Of course, Drew goes there. Yeah, it's supposed to be smoked. Hells yes. Peace pipe and all that. Yep. Yeah. As long as you don't have to chase around your dog, should you get it and eat it before you get to smoke it. Yeah. Your familiar's like, I'm going to take this and run with it. No, but yes, absolutely. I mean, if you don't want to have the whole killing, slaughtering, hurting the thing, the unicorn could absolutely rub its horn against a thing to create powder. Also, um, how do I explain this part? Um, um, let's see. Let's see if we can find stats. Is the unicorn? There is the wiki. Come on. Yep. So the unicorn may not be the only creature of its type to have its thing, especially in your. So, a lot of our fantasy creatures of course, are based on um, uh, 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 are culturally have a cultural specificity, right? Like I was bringing up the coatl, where it's the winged serpent that could absolutely represent a thing. It could be that in your world, any goodly creature has this horn on it, even if it's not a unicorn. So it could represent a thing. Not that they have to be humanoid, but it could be um, like I was talking about trolls or turtles or eagles or something like that. Maybe there's a trait that's common amongst these kind of beings, so that if you go to the accursed desert, maybe there's a golden snake. I don't know, a scorpion or something. I don't know, whatever. There's a version of a unicorn in that realm for the thing. So let's see. First edition unicorn. There's an image here. Lawful good, of course. Celestial. I think it's going back and forth between celestial and fey, if I'm not mistaken, or it's one of the few creatures that kind of vacillates between the two, if I'm not mistaken. But let's take a look. So I'm going to click here. That's the first edition, and then let's see if the stats change a little bit. Second edition, large, celestial, lawful good. Okay. Oh, that's. I'm sorry. I'm doing the images. So first edition here, image. Second edition, there's another image. Third edition, that looks more Kyren, kind of, but kind of cool. And then fourth edition image, and then fifth edition. And then stat wise, let's move down a little bit here. First edition, yep, large chaotic good. Dark vision with low light vision. Average lifespan 1,000+ years. The end of its age could also be a thing about getting the horn. Maybe it gives it to a thing. Yep, and common Sylvan, Elven, telepathy, celestial languages. Okay, so in second edition, yep, still chaotic good, pretty similar. Favorite terrain, forests. Although there are various versions of unicorns that are in other areas. So it makes a lot of sense with that. Again, it's always chaotic good, magical beasts. Let's see. Fourth edition is we start going into the unaligned because we get away from alignment quite a bit. Yep, still languages, still Sylvan, Elven, telepathy, and then we get in the fifth edition, lawful good, celestial, and kind of the combination thereof. So, yeah. Let's see. Healing doggy do. You're so bad. Thomas Anderson says, I could imagine there being a tree of effects that, based on what the horn had done with its spiders out into, like druids using it to mix into the soil, leads to a grove of trees that have silver colored fruit that save people from the incurable and the unsick, eating one reverse age 10 years or something. I like that idea. And the flowers of the fruit produce some smell that, if used in incense, cure asthma and other breathing ailments, etc. I love that. I absolutely love that idea that the the horn itself, if buried or its powder is spread or the fruits of the tree create a thing, and that may be where a grove comes from. Especially, let's say the unicorn is at the end of its life, or sacrifices itself. It gives of itself and just settles down into a grove. Um, or maybe the mission isn't even to collect the unicorn. Maybe the mission is to get a baby unicorn and protect it from the dangers of the world. And the PCs are, on the day of the unicorn, the PCs are tasked with finding, maybe the mommy has been killed and they have the baby unicorn, and the PCs must get the baby unicorn to a celestial being, or a fey grove like one of these, or the druidic circle or something like that. And once they do so, the as the power of the horn is fading, but if they can bring the unicorn to the Fey Grove, then they'll exchange one for the other, right? Like, oh, you're here. This was given of the ancient unicorn. Give it some complex, complicated name with a lot of hyphens and asterisks or whatever. I don't know, apostrophes or something. And then so they give they freely give the horn over to the player characters, knowing that the baby unicorn will be raised to protect this realm for 1,000 years, and then when it passes, its horn will be used to keep it going. Stuff like that. I love that. I love that idea. Yeah, TA says, so to protect the next generation of unicorns as a fowl until old enough to survive on their own or something, or the unicorn could be the progenitor for other mystical mounted uh, equine creatures. Maybe the unicorn is where Pegasi come from. And what are some other ones? The Pegasus, the Nightmare. Oh, the Zephyr. I'm trying to think some other common, uh, like maybe the unicorn gives birth to other horses that have just one special thing, like um, a horse that just happens to run twice as fast as every other horse, or the horse that can, once a day or whatever, can basically run in the air and then land somewhere else, or the horse is immune to poison, or there's a horse with has a little stubby horn, right? It'll never grow large. It's a little stubby horn, and maybe can't heal everybody else, but it can heal itself, or it can heal others, but it's like it's not one of those touch instantly healed. It's more like if you um, put the injured person or poisoned person or injured diseased person in the stable with that horse, it'll within 24 hours, if they survive, they will be healed or something like that. Like it could be little things like that as well. Um, yeah, maybe leave a limited amount of time to the harvest, not just the horn, but hooves, etc., of the one dying, and use it not only to do all those wonderful things, but also in the protection of that fowl too. Yes, exactly. Like maybe there. I mean, it sounds kind of horrible to harvest, you know, the dying body of a unicorn, but in reality, we harvest animals all the time. If it has died, it's possible that there's a mysticism to it. So it's not like people just hacking away at it. Maybe I'm trying to think of something that makes sense. Maybe it leaves behind horse magical horseshoes. I don't know. I'm trying to think of something that sounds less industrial about it and more giving of itself. Like maybe its bones, each of its bones is some kind of trinket or something. It's golden or silvery or something like that, and it's like used as a wand or something. I don't know. It sounds kind of. Uh, I don't like where my brain's going with that, but it's an option though. Marco says another horse is the Nyx. Another horse is the Nyx. Okay, couldn't think of another horse, right? Is a Nyx, a water nymph, more accurately, that is known to transform into a horse that jumps into the river and drowns any prey that decides to try and ride it. Ooh, ooh. I remember this is a deep cut. There's a comic book character known as oh it was a comic book character that wielded a magical baseball bat, and he was a modern day version of like King Arthur, and the bat was his sword, and he had like a trench coat on. Anyway, he did battle with the Nyx, and the horse could jump into and out of water features as if it was deep water. So the horse could jump in and out of like a water fountain, like in a park, even though our hero was only in it like ankle deep, knee deep, but the horse could dive in and out of the water and such. And horses and water have always been related to each other because of the god Neptune. So yeah, that's another thing as well. Like maybe there's a relationship with each unicorn in its own region is the dominant power. Like in the we pure white unicorn in the wilderness, sure. In the desert, it might be something different. On a coastline, it might be something different. But they are the epitome. Like you can't. They're when they're on their home turf, your ass is dead, right? And it might be like we can't murder kill this thing. We're going to need to. They are the equivalent of a dragon in their own lair when they are in that particular location or something. TA says, once the time runs out, the unicorn's remains then turn to solid stone, and maybe, if misused, could cause the creation of things like basilisk effects and such, i.e., able to turn living things to stone as it is doing so. Or maybe they're the equivalent of the opposite. Hey, our friend turned to stone. Could you touch him and turn back to flesh again? That's possible. Sorry. Mm-mm. I try not to do that, but I must have picked up a little something. But I do like that. Could turn to stone. Its horn, maybe the body turns to stone, but the horn doesn't. PCs go out in the wilderness and they're like, "Why is there a stone horse out here?" And one of the PCs investigates and goes, "There's a round circle here, a golden round circle. What's that about on its forehead?" Um, yeah, if you wait too long to use it, yeah, if you wait too long to use it, spoiled unicorn remains cause petrification to stone instead of healing. Ooh, time limit. I like that. The healing effect could be that the rider will not get sore for being on the whole day on the mount. Yeah, yeah. I do like that. Yeah, you can ride it, ride it bareback. You don't get blue balls, right? Although riding a unicorn in a battle would be pretty badass. I think. Hey, PC, I don't know. Hey, here's a PC gift. You get to your mystical mount as a unicorn. You're like, what? That's more badass than getting yet another magical potion or something, right? Even if it's only temporary. Um, I can't remember. Oh, Drew says Nick sounds to me like a kelpie. I'm gonna look that up. Look that shit up. Okay, here we go. Where is where's the search portion? There it is. Let's see. Nix. Let's see what it says. Nix. Nixies. Let's see. Am I sharing this out? Move over. There we go. Mind you, this is the Forgotten Realms wiki. So we've got Nixies were an aquatic race of sprite. Nixie Deep. That's the first one that comes up. They had typically slim bodies with pale green skin. And then let me look up Kelpie. And Kelpies were creatures that resembled a massive seaweed. Yeah, Kelpies could alter their form to appear as either a woman, a hippocampus, or a green horse. But regardless of what form they took, their substance. Okay. That's it. Okay. Yes. Also, get out of here. Damn pop-ups. There's an image. See, first edition. That's the image I remember. Yep. That's the image I remember. The seaweed bodied, faced, humanoid faced thing. I love this kind of idea anyway. I love it. But anyway, okay. Let's see. Does it show me that? No. Sea shanty for the bitch queen. I don't know what that means, but okay. So that's one image, second edition image for the Kelpie, and then the third edition. And there's the horse. So it's possible that the unicorn in your world could take on the uh, form of a humanoid could take on the unicorn could take on the form of a humanoid in your world, even though that might not necessarily be uh, it might not necessarily be one of the capabilities that they normally have in your thing, like silver dragons having shape shifting and want to be able to walk around and stuff like that. Oh, true. Drew's like, if you smoke the horn, you certainly will get stoned. Yep. Yeah. 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 It's kind of silly. All right. But anyway, we come to the end. So some other things to think about on this idea of the day of is that the rules could change. So um, one of the aspects of rapping and using this as a prompt is that on the day of, it's a great a kelpicorn, a unikelp or a kelpicorn. What sign are you? I'm a kelpicorn. Yeah, there's the um on the day of the rules that we're normally used to, the dice, the mechanisms, the rules of the game, the lore and everything may change on the day of. So maybe unicorns can't be found at all at any other time except on this day, or on the day of the unicorn. Unicorns are badass. You don't roll the dice because you're probably going to get your ass kicked, right? Or anything thereof. As you guys were mentioning, turning to stone, being the powder, getting the horn itself, and all these rules, the all that narrative part of it. On this day, maybe those rules change, or this is the day that the rules apply. Every other day doesn't matter. Also, the player characters coming along at the tail end of this. The player characters, they don't know it's the day of the unicorn, but people tell them, like, hey, guess what? We have to protect the unicorns and we need your help to do it. And there's a evil entity. For me, this is a great big bad evil guy plot hole, right? I'm not plot hole, but plot thread where, because I love lieutenants. I think um, big bad evils are great, but having a mix and match of lieutenants, I think, is a great thing. Maybe one or more lieutenants has gathered together a hunting party that's very skilled and is a mishmash of a bunch of different monstrous and magical beings. Like maybe there's uh, a wizard, a Medusa, five ogres, a troll. Like you could put together like a motley crew, and they're going out and hunting down these things, and the PCs have to stop them from doing a thing to keep the natural order in check. And that may be and the gift from stopping them to killing the last unicorn could be its powder, its horn, the gift of the fey creatures. You can call upon it once and it will come to you. It's a new. The Warlock has switched its pack patron, which would be a great gift to a player character, right? Hey, remember that pact you signed with the devil? Yeah, temporarily you've got a pact that's been broken by the unicorn, and it will be with you. This is your new pact for a day and a year and a day, or something like that, right? Um, it could be at odds with each other. Hey, you have a pact with the devil, but you also have a pact with them, and each day roll the die. 50-50 chance. All right. Hey, if you call upon one, that means that you have to call upon the other. I know you could have some fun with this as well. Also, you could um, the mission giver, right? Following the unicorn is sending the PCs on a mission. The unicorn itself could be the side effect. The real mission is the journey. So the player characters are trying to follow the trail of the unicorn, and really, it's not even capturing the unicorn at all. It could just be touching its flank and petting it. And that's the greatest gift of all. But along the way, they come upon ancient crypts and an evil lurking in the dark wilderness and a uh, a village that's been harmed and suffering pestilence or so, whatever the case may be. And each time the Dances with Wolf concept, where the unicorn is always on the horizon, always on the distant hill, always like, you know, they're silhouetted against the moon or sparkling from the sunlight, and walks over crest of the hill, and the PCs go after it again. And guess what? There's yet another encounter. That kind of thing. Yep. TA says the only way to win the war. Uh, the only way to win the war against the unicorn is to not start the war in the first place. Yep. Yep. Hell yeah. Uh, it, the disappearance of the unicorn, and the appearance and or disappearance of it. What's okay? Sorry. Segue. The television show, The House of the Dragon. In it, they were looking after was it the white? Um, oh shoot, I can't remember it. So, I know you guys remember it, and I'm pulling this out of my ass. In during the Great Hunt in the House of the Dragon, um, our Rhaenyra, our main character, princess, is out in the woods, and she sees the the white hart. That's what it was called. The white hart, and it is a bone white, majestic, antlered elk or something, deer or elk or something, and just by its presence, it's like a sign that she should be on the throne, right? The unicorn itself could be that representation of war, no war, peace, honor, whatever. And maybe this is the kind of, and it doesn't need to be a unicorn. It could be a griffin flies through the air, circles above the envoy and the peace treaty, and everyone looks up and goes, "Yeah, we're doing the right thing." The appearance of the unicorn as we travel through, the PCs are like, "Yeah, we should be heading north because that's where it's at." And this could just simply be a background part of your world. When the thing shows up and the other people see it or whatever, or people look at the player characters and go, "You saw it, didn't you? It's in your eye. I see it." you know Drew says, "Yeah, exactly. Indeed, do not roll dice. Simply assume that the unicorn will eat the party like popcorn." I'm imagining a bag of PCs and a pot. And the unicorn's just reaching in the bag with a hoof and crunching on yet another armored PC. So the nuclear physicist misnamed it tickling the dragon when really it was tickling the unicorn, and they got kicked. Yeah, exactly. The mission, should you choose to accept it, is to bring the popcorn to the unicorn. Yeah. Mm-mm-mm. If you wonder what fighting with a unicorn would be like, watch Count Donkula's description of his encounter with a horse and just a flinch of its head and how terrifying it was for him. I don't know that reference, but it sounds funky. Or just ask anyone who knows someone who has horses they care for and how many times they look like they have been in a bar brawl when it was just being smacked by a horse's head. Yeah, the horse happened to sneeze or something. I've heard of that. Like horses just by accident can crush people. I mean, really, really like crush people. It's pretty hard, pretty horrendous. Uh, a unicorn is probably 5 times, 10 times that. The unicorn sneezes, and everyone's like, "Ah, place the snot on me." What's the old viral commercial about the poop and the unicorn sitting on squatting down and pooping out rainbow colored ice cream that they're giving to the little children or something? I can't remember. Not the pooper. Oh, I can't remember the commercial. But yeah, it's like no matter what the unicorn does, is the unicorn shitting? Yay! I'm gonna get some of this duty. Oh yeah. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. And the idea that some of these prompts, I like the idea that some of the prompts on its surface really don't tell us what it's about, but then we start to dig into it and go, "Oh, there is something here. There is an element of a spark of creativity here that we can use. We can pull that thread and start to unravel it and go, I'm going to pull this thread and use it to make something. Like, for example, we didn't even think about unicorns being evil, or at least not being traditionally lawful or chaotic good, but they could be something else. A unicorn of a horse with a horn, singular horn, or something like of its type, could be of anything. Like, for example, this black unicorn that I have in the thumbnail um, could be very neutral or dark or evil-ish, kind of related to it, like the Dungeons and Dragons creature, the nightmare, the Pegasus, and things. And maybe there is an equine ecology in your world that's also mixed with magic, so that, can they breed dark unicorns? Maybe they can, or maybe maybe this is the outcome of a unicorn that's been corrupted, and the PCs need to solve the corruption because the unicorn keeps traveling, or has dominion over its region, but it's pretty terrible. And in order to get the stop the dark wood from being dark, and being a dark wood and being a place of peace, they have to cure the corruption. And the problem is, the unicorn is corrupted and doesn't want you to cure it because it's been corrupted. That's also a possibility as well. Yep. Yeah, TA says that is as awful as the idea that chocolate milk comes from plugging up the butt of a cow. And after you get the chocolate milk, then it puts out strawberry milk. That's so nasty. I love it. Yeah. Hey, Hunt says, hope your next meaningless fraction of an eternity gets off to a great start. Yes, everybody. Your time's very, very valuable, and I'm glad you're spending it here. It means a lot. After bringing the popcorn to the unicorn, your next mission will be bringing ketchup to the dragon. Yep. As the dragon's like, ooh, what are you, armored up? Crunchy. Love it, love it, love it. So thank you very much, guys. Everyone have a great day. Thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. And everyone have a great gaming experience. I'll see you later. Peace.